everyone, Angela here. Life can be challenging. Trust me, I get it. However, I have learned we can either view the opposition or value the opportunity. Ponder on the problem or praise the potential. Focus on the situation or find the solution. Despite the current circumstances you're going through, I invite you to join me today as we embark on a grand adventure to discover the reasons why it's a good time to be you.
Here's the encourager herself, making every day a good day, Angela Henderson.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome. We are so glad that you are here today. Welcome. Turn to your neighbor and say, it's a good time to be you. And it is. Thank you so much for being a part of our show today and for joining us. You know, when we say that it's a good time to be you, it is not that we are belittling your situation or your circumstances at all. We are just coming into an agreement with God's purpose and His will for that. Life has its challenges. I get it. We all have issues. However, it is how we choose to be during those moments of challenge. Today we have with us a very, very special guest. Many of you may know her and recognize her. She comes to us from the ABC Channel 4 here locally in Charleston, Miss Tessa Spencer. And she is going to be sharing with us just some of the challenges in life and how it was for her in climbing up this mountain of life and going into the media, which she now is a part of that mountain as she stands at the top of it, representing the kingdom of God there, but what it took for her to get there and the story of her life. And so we don't want you to go away. We'll be right back. Hey, as a leader, you are a broker of gifts. So whether you are a professional, a business owner, or a ministerial leader, I would love to accompany you in transforming your ordinary staff into an extraordinary team through leadership development, team building, and personal discovery. You will learn the amazing gifts, skills, and talents that each of you have and know how to bring them together in order to do great things. So reach out to me at angeladhenderson.com and let's begin your amazing adventure today. And remember, it's a good time to be you. Welcome back, everyone. So glad you're with us today. At this time, let's give Miss Tessa Spencer a hand clap and welcome her to the stage. Tessa, come on. Welcome. We are so glad you're here today. Thank you for being a part of It's a Good Time to Be You and honoring us with this visit.
Oh, my God, this is amazing. I mean, I'm never usually on this side of things, you know, but thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Well, I was just sharing with Tessa earlier, it was a few years ago, that we were in the opposite positions and that she had graciously interviewed me with a book that I had written. And so thank you so much for just coming and being a part and sharing your story. And I know that it's going to empower people as well as inspire them.
I hope so.
We get inspiration to go and do things, but the empowerment is the strength in which we do it. And so I know that your story will not only inspire, but it will empower. And there's purpose behind the things that we go through. So why don't we just start back and give us a brief history of your life here and just tell us about you.
Yeah, well, I am a Charleston native, raised on the peninsula, downtown in what is now known as Central Charleston, which back then it was just like, you know, you live off Rutledge or King, you know, but now as things have evolved, they've named places. So Central Charleston. I went to elementary school, middle school between Cathedral, Sacred Heart, and James Simmons. Went on to college to Baptist College of Charleston back then, which has now evolved into Charleston Southern. While I was there, I joined the U.S. Army Reserves because I was looking for a challenge. Which I did, and I was on the cheerleading squad there as well. And during that time, I was called up to be activated during the first Gulf War.
Wow!
And we filled in our reserve unit. It was a hospital unit here in Charleston, which is no longer here. It used to be down by the Battery, and I spent a year on active duty out at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas.
Wow.
And that was a very great experience. All the while just graduating from college and having to start my radio career back then in 1990. So
back in 1990. And how old were you at that time?
I was about, because I turned 21 once I got to Kansas, so I graduated at 20, so between 20 and 21. when all of that happened.
Wow. So that was a lot that was happening in your life, at such a young age.
Yeah.
Many doors were opening. You were allowing yourself to be challenged,
Yes.
And to be stretched during that time. And I am a person, I like numbers.
Yeah.
I tell everybody, God created numbers. He's a God of order.
Yes.
And that numbers will tell us a story. And he designed it. I say he wrote a whole book about numbers.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
And so when we always look back in our life and we begin to see how things begin to add up, in these young stages of your life, the number 20 represents a time of redemption. And so at that age of being in college and coming out of college, God is beginning to bring some redemption back into your life again. And when we think of redemption, it's like cashing in on something. It's kind of like a coupon or a gift certificate. You redeem it for what it's worth.
Absolutely.
And so we see here, what I'm hearing is that God was beginning a redemption for you, and he was beginning to show you, your true value and your true worth. Going into the age of 21, which represents a time of, finding strength in the Holy Spirit and learning to listen, to him as our guide. And then in 22, being that daughter of light. And so I'm just seeing how he was positioning you from college into, the military, into radio, a daughter of light, where you could shine bright.
Right. And my mom said I would always talk in my sleep, so it was a good thing I was starting to get paid, for talking. That's all I would get in trouble in school for, would be running my mouth and socializing.
Oh my goodness.
And just with life in general at that time, for more of my history with Charleston, I was raised by two families. I had my biological family, and I had a family that wasn't my biological family that raised me, and my mother was a school teacher, and so it was interesting living two lives at that particular time too, and getting to that point of being in school and achieving and going to the military and getting through that, but all the while knowing that I basically had two lives.
All
What
right.
I'm doing with that.
Okay, so we're going to get to a break, and when we come back, we're going to find out how that came to be, where you became a part of two families and the decisions that led to that. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Check out my new book on AngelaDHenderson.com and take a journey to discover the many reasons why it's a good time to be you. Welcome back, everyone. So we have with us here Miss Tessa Spencer from ABC News here in Charleston, and it's such a pleasure, Tessa, to have you with us. And she's sharing with us just her phenomenal story as to the obstacles that she overcame in order to be the person that God's designed her to be to this day. And so, Tessa, as we were wrapping up our last segment, you were sharing with us how you found yourself a part of two families. Can you kind of update us and bring us up to par as to how that happened?
Yeah, sure. Not too many people, my close circle, they know about my life, but not too many people know this part of my life, that I was raised by another woman from the time I was five months old, and a stranger, so to speak, in that my mom and dad got married at very young age, teenage age, and had my oldest sisters, and my brother, my family, my father's side of the family were Catholic, and my great-grandmother's, okay, no, you guys are getting married, this, that, and the third. And so they had my sister, they had my brother, my two brothers, and then I was the youngest at that time at 5 months old. And the lady that was babysitting us was good friends with my birth mom. And there was a neighbor that she had that noticed, who was good friends, with the babysitter, and noticed, okay, now, all right, I know the other three. I've seen you babysitting the other three. Now, whose baby is this? And she said, well, this is, so-and-so's baby. I will say that both of my moms had the same first name, and if I might say, it's Dolores. And she said, oh, well, I can help you, babysit. That's the youngest one. I'll, help. And she was a school teacher at the time, with Charleston County School District. And she got permission to babysit me. She did that. That turned into, well, I have my summers off because I'm a teacher, and my mom at that time was trying to, finish school, and my father was kind of in and out. He wasn't ready for marriage, at that particular age, and he would be the type that would go out for a pack of cigarettes and come back a month later. So by the time I was born, he didn't even know I had been born, that I was born. And so my mama gave my mom a proposition and said, I tell you what, if you let Tessa come and, stay with me, for the summer, you can come see her, things of that nature, whatnot, then you'll get her back at the end of the summer. Okay, so my mom went to her sisters, as told by my mom, and said, what do you think about this? They told her, no, are you crazy? You don't know this woman, whatever. But she did it anyway, okay? And so my mom said that she would come see me during, the summertime, bring me food, toys, sit and play with me. And when she came back to get me at the end of that summer, my mama said, you know what, I've grown attached to Tessa. She had no children of her own. She was married to a Navy guy, and I think he had moved back to where he was from in Virginia. And she was strong-willed. I'm not moving to Virginia, no way. And so she wanted a child. Yeah. And she said, you don't have to worry about food, school, clothing, medical care, nothing. I'll take care of her. And my mom again went to her sisters and said, this lady said this. And they're like, no, are you crazy? But she did it anyway. And my mom came back to my mama and said, okay, we can do this, but you can't adopt her. You can't change her name. And she has to know that she has two families. Okay. And so from that point on, that's the way I operated my life. And I think for me at that time, it was a very hard thing to have to navigate, to be put on a young child. Because at that time when I finally knew what was going on, I was about 5, 6 years old. And all I knew is that when I would go on specific weekends to stay, because my mom had remarried by this time. By the time I was 3 years old, my mom remarried. And I still had to deal with the fact that she didn't come back to get me. Okay, you remarried now, there's, and she had 2 more children, my sisters. And growing up, I had to deal with the fact that, but you didn't come back to get me. But just having to deal with that, I knew when I would spend certain nights there, I would cry at night. I was okay during the day, but when night came, I cried to go back to my mama. Yes. And I don't know how that made, we never really talked about it. I don't know how that made my mom feel to know that, okay, this is my daughter, but she was crying to leave, to go to her mama. And it would be instances where with the lady who raised me, so you're Miss So-and-so's daughter? Because we didn't look anything alike. And then when I would go to family functions with, with my biological family, they're like, now, who are you? Oh, I think I remember this is that. So I really feel like I didn't have a place. I didn't have a sense of belonging, so to speak. And my mother and my stepfather were like flower children, love, peace, happiness. We love you so much. But the person I wanted to hear the love, or hear I love you from, the lady who raised me, my mama, she couldn't give me that. That's not how she operated. She said, I don't have to tell you that I love you. You have a roof over your head. You go to private schools. You do this, da, da, da. I don't have to, words mean nothing. The words I love you mean nothing. But that's who I wanted to hear it from. So emotionally, I suffered through that, because it's great. Okay, my biological family, they love me so much so in my actions. Yeah, but you gave me away. But the woman that I'm living with and who I spend every day with couldn't tell me that. I think the first time she ever told me that, I was 16, the age of 16, when she said, I love you. But I just never felt that, and I had to deal, with that throughout life. And it wasn't always easy.
I could imagine, Tessa. But God always ordains our path and our footsteps. And I know that there was a trail for you. And when we come back after this break, I want to share something with you as you continue to share your story with us. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. So we are
on an amazing adventure here with Tessa Spencer, as she is just kind of sharing with us a little bit of the background of her life. And Tessa, I had shared before break that I just wanted to share some things with you that I'm hearing from the Lord. And again, going back to your numbers, you know, you were mentioning it was around 5 months old when your mother made the decision, you know, to allow the other Dolores to take care of you. And then again, it was around 5 years of age when, you know, some other things were taking place in your life, and there was still that decision to maintain the current arrangement for you, and that you always were desiring to hear the mother that was raising you that she loved you, and that it wasn't until you were 16 that those words were said, and probably not heard much more after that.
You're right.
But, you know, but the number 5 is very beautiful because it is a number of grace and a number of mercy. And and there were twice that you mentioned that number with 5 months and 5 years of age. And I just know that God's grace was over your life the entire time. And, you know, and His Word tells us that, you know, where we have received a lot of grace, then it's also expected for us to be able to give that, you know. And so I do believe that God positioned you to learn to walk in grace and learn to walk in favor where His grace was over you during those difficult times of your life. But now you will also be positioned to show lots of grace and lots of mercy, you know, to other people. And that number 16 represents an unconditional love. And so when you were so desperate in your heart to hear it, God gave you a moment, you know, where you could hear it. And He used the woman that you wanted to hear it from. But I really believe that if we can look back a little bit into that time frame, that He was using an instrument to let you know He loved you, and that He had not forgotten about you, and He had not abandoned you, you know, but He knew right where you were at that moment, and He was by your side. And He was a friend that sticks closer than a brother, never leaving us nor forsaking us. And so, well, you know, with that being said, we've brought it up to this point where we're hearing God, you know, in this time together. But there was a point in your life when you began to attune your spiritual ear to the voice of God. So share that with us. What was that like, and when did that begin to happen for you?
Yeah, Angela, I mean, I've always been a seeker throughout my life, more of a spiritual person than a religion, you know, person. I was raised Catholic, but had experienced, you know, other denominations and gone to different churches. And, you know, I don't know what it was that I was seeking, but there was around 2009, I think 2010 or so, it just popped in my head one day. I woke up and was like, I want to hear God's voice. I mean, and these thoughts just come to me randomly, you know, throughout life. I want to hear, what does He sound like? Because, you know, you'll always hear your elders saying, well, God spoke to me last night, or I went down in prayer and God said, well, I want to know, what does God sound like? Has God been talking to me? I want to be able to, you know, hear His voice. So as God would have it, and how He works His ways to get you to where He wants you to be. I was meeting with a young lady about a nonprofit that she wanted me to be a part of. And her godmother came in to this particular meeting, because we were meeting at the Barnes & Noble, West Ashley, you know, at the time. And she came in and she's like, well, I run a school inside this church, and we're having it's a Christian school and inside this church, and we're having our very first graduation. There's only 3 students that are graduating, but and at this time I was doing morning radio, and we listen to you guys every morning when we're having our breakfast, and would you be our commencement speaker? And so I said, sure, why not? Okay, so I did it. And it was at this church in West Ashley, Crosstown Christian Church. And I was living in West Ashley at the time, and I would pass it every once in a while to go to the grocery store. And Angela, I kid you not, every time I would pass that church, I would glance over it and go, and keep going. Prior to ever stepping inside that church. And so when I went, I did the commencement speech. The pastor at the end of it was present. He got up, said a few words, and I said, you know what? Because that was on a Saturday. I'm going to come back that Sunday, the next day. I came back. I stood in the middle of the sanctuary, didn't know anyone, but as soon as the first drum beat hit, I started crying.
Oh my God.
And as a Catholic person, you know, you get a little nervous when there's too much mixing around going on. And so as that's going on, I'm having a conversation with myself, girl, why are you crying? I'm going, I don't know, this is that and the third, da-da-da. And so after, you know, praise and worship was over, we sat down. The pastor came up on stage, dimmed the lights, and he said, we're beginning a new series today. It might be for some, it might be for one. None of you might get it at all. but this is what we're going to talk about. And he turned and it came up on the screen, how do I hear God's voice?
Wow, Tessa.
And I almost hollered. I was like, what? I did that. And from that point on, I was feeding the word. I wanted to hear it every day. I was now getting in the car, and he would tell me, turn it off. I'd turn the music off, or I would listen to talk radio, whatever the case may be. And I would just spend quality time. I learned how to spend quality time with God and just in silence and be quiet. And I had a dream once, and I'll say this really, I had a dream once that I was going through my house. I don't know scripture that well, but I was walking in the dark, not bumping into anything, praying, saying scripture, and just wailing, just crying. And when I woke up the next morning, it was the most euphoric feeling I had ever felt. That next day, it's like I was operating in a bubble. We were sitting in a little meeting, and I was just like, I wasn't there. I felt like I was walking on air. I couldn't explain the feeling, and I couldn't find anybody that would understand,
Amazing.
that feeling. But, and that's how I've kind of operated.
Yes.
I learned now to kind of wait. And there was a moment in my life right after that I believe that's what it was preparing me for, to be where I am now.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, when we come back, we
Okay.
want to know what happened in that moment and
Okay.
where are you now. And so,
Right.
do not go away. You don't want to miss this. This is getting good. I'm getting goosebumps. So we'll be right back.
Hey everyone, Angela here. Just wanting to invite you to share your story with us. We all have times in our lives when it just seemed like it was impossible. But then there was that moment of breakthrough. And just maybe your story was meant to be shared and imparted to be able to encourage and uplift others. Well, we would love to be able to give you that opportunity. So how about send your story into us at itsagoodtimetobeYou@gmail.com for consideration. We would love the opportunity to be able to bring you up on stage so that you can do what you were designed to do. And that was to be an encouragement to those around you. Sometimes you just can't make this stuff up. But when it happens, we want the world to know about it. So again, reach out to us at itsagoodtimetobeYou@gmail.com and send in that story for us to consider. And remember, it's a good time to be you.
Welcome back, everyone. Now, I know those goosebumps are still raised as we are here with Tessa Spencer, and she's just walking us through an incredible journey with her life. And so, Tessa, we've brought up to this point now. You've learning to hear the voice of God and how amazing that is. And so throughout your life, as we noted earlier in our show, there's many things that He enabled you to accomplish, having gone to college and going into the military and going on to radio. And now we know that you're here and locally on television, and you still do some radio broadcasting as well. And just getting your voice out there, and in actuality, just being a voice for Him as He,
That's what I want,
opens up opportunity for you. But share with us how the journey of your life has now ignited the passions that are inside of you and the things that, that the desires that are inside of you that you want to do.
And, with the running theme here would seem like I would have been, abandoned. I was abandoned emotionally to some degree, abandoned by my mom, if I looked at it, that way. Abandoned certainly by my father. Not hearing I love you from the person that I wanted to hear, that from. You would think that I would conduct myself in that particular way, not be very open to people, be kind of, sheltered off. And for my children, my sons, and for example, I always tell them I love them every day. I send them texts randomly, I love you. I want them to know that I love them. And I want to do things for people. I try to do sometimes random acts of kindness, or if it's not something monetarily, I'll give them a word like, I love you, everything's going to be all right. Sometimes I'm moved to tell strangers everything's going to be all right. And they're like, oh my God, I needed to hear that. And I don't know I do know where that comes from. But, and I try to be obedient in that way. But I want to be able to, and I give of my time constantly. I'm not able to do everything for everyone, or my schedule might not allow me to, be everywhere at once. But I try to, if someone asks me to, to do something, I try to say yes, or more than often I do say yes. My boyfriend's like, babe, you gotta make time to rest. You gotta, this. I said, well, no, I wanted to do it. But usually whenever I do it, something good comes off of it, because even though I'm giving of myself, there might be somebody there or something that I needed to hear, or it might be something that just kind of, keeps me going. Because even with everything, I didn't get a chance to mention that even with that and going through things and being blessed, I suffered from depression. And a lot of it had to do with my upbringing and what I thought was the lack, and feeling like I was unnoticed, or nobody really wanted me, or in the marriages that I had, that I was going to be left or cheated on, or I didn't feel worthy of certain things. But I did defeat that.
Good for you.
And I'm in a much better place when it comes to that. And when you're happy in a place like that, you're more giving and open. And I just want to, if I can't give monetarily or if my time, I give of myself.
Yes.
And I try not to waste any encounters with people that way.
And that's so beautiful, because Jesus didn't waste any encounters with people. Nobody was ever left the same, having been in an encounter with Jesus. And so it's the Jesus that's operating through you that is providing that same experience for the people that he has allowed your path to cross. One of the things that I've always stated is that when I stand before him, I don't want there to be anything left of Angela for me to present, because if I did, then his investment in me was wasted. Because I want to be totally used up, totally exhausted. There's nothing left of me when I stand before him other than that return. And so that's what I'm seeing in you, Tessa, is just that return, and that you are just allowing yourself to be used for his glory, and that he is going to continue to do the great things inside of you. There's so much left in you that he wants to do, and your years, the best, are yet to come for you. And so with that being said, just share with me and the rest of us, as you look back over your time, as you reflect, over these moments, and even where you are right now currently in the present, when did you realize that it was a good time to be Tessa?
Now, right now, actually, to be able to be here, I mean, really, it's a subset of this, just, to be here and open myself up to something I've never talked about publicly before. And just when I was reading, when we were talking about what we were going to talk about, I was getting teary-eyed, because now I have to be even more open and even more vulnerable, that, everyone sees the finished product. Everyone's, I hear you on the radio, I see you on the TV, you're doing this. Life looks great from the outside looking in, but it took so much to get to where this is. And there's still, much work to be done. But it's a good time to be me at this very moment, because this is a culmination for me of me really stepping back and being on the stage right now, stepping back and seeing all that I have done. With you providing the confirmation that God has been with me every step of the way. And we've always heard, he orders our steps. That is so true. He is with us. And for anyone that's going through things that you think they're insurmountable, that you can't get through, rest assured that God is there. And how I ended up in TV, trust God. I told him 3 times when I was laid off that morning from my radio job, I trust you, I trust you, I trust you. By that afternoon, the news director called and said, I don't know if this is fate, but a reporter position just came open today. Amazing. And I walked through that door that he opened for me. And that's where I am now.
Amazing.
Yes.
So, Tessa, how about at the count of 3?
Okay.
We tell them it's a good time to be you.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
It's a good time to be you.
Hey everyone, be sure to watch Tessa Spencer weeknights in Charleston on WCIV ABC News Channel 4, and listen to her regularly on Z93 Jams. And remember, it's a good time to be you.